This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas. Ahoy! Captain David Gallimore welcomes you aboard the Regenerate Show, live Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific on K4HD Radio at k4hd.com. We dive into the real messy work of transforming our lives, leadership, and organizations. Bring your hot mess and confusion. Leave with clarity, courage, and confidence. Together, let's strengthen our resilience, accelerating the health of ourselves, people, planet, and profits. Now, here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator. All aboard!
Welcome. I am so excited to have one of my dear friends and senseis, Bert Eckert, with me on the Regenerate Show, episode 2. So our theme this week is your human operating system. It sounds kind of techie, but what you'll soon realize is Bert has this ability to combine the heart and the mind and integrate holistically. So we're going to be exploring the energy, mind, and body, the triple threat, the connection and deep dive into understanding who we are, who we're becoming, and the role of our emotions. How many of you are a bit challenged with maybe labeling your emotions if you're tending to live from the neck up, analytical as I am? This topic is very near and dear to so many of my clients' hearts, and especially to mine, during our messy middle of our personal, professional, and organizational transformations, which is really the purpose of this radio show. We're going to be experiencing where emotions show up in our bodies and how we can leverage our bodies to change our mind and shift our emotions. Our show's promise, if you are just now joining us, is to have fun today, because when we're laughing, we're learning. And secondly, to leave you inspired that there is hope in the world. This is a bit of a counterbalance to some of the news and other issues that we get to experience day to day, and to leave you empowered. And my hope and commitment to you, and Bert also shares this commitment, is we're very outcome based. So what's that one thing that you can take, that one insight that you can take forward in your day to begin or accelerate your current transformation? Because we want you to not just survive, but to flourish. So consider grabbing some paper, virtual or the old stuff, and a pen, so that you might be able to review and apply what resonated the most for you today. So it is truly a privilege to introduce Bert. He's been my most important guide, sensei, coach, mentor, since January of 2022. So quite a while. But it seems like just yesterday sometimes, Bert. He's the founder of QLX, which is an acronym for Quality of Life Experience. He's absolutely dedicated his life to continuously getting clear about what matters to him and helping others do the same. So he designs and delivers with his team transformational experiences. And we're blessed today to have him in the Experience Center in Leuven, Belgium, where he's taken a little bit of time. He's incredibly productive in doing these programs. And so we might ask him later, hey, how long did that take you to do? Because it's pretty remarkable what experience is he able to do in the center. I especially appreciate Bert's clear, holistic, and integrative way of thinking, connecting the heart and the mind. And he's been vital in helping me break down and blow up my blocks so that I can experience many more breakthroughs. And a few of those I suspect we'll be discussing today. So please welcome to our show my sensei and my dear, dear friend, Bert Eckert. Welcome.
Hi, David. Hello, Captain, my captain. Thanks for thank you for inviting me. The privilege is all mine.
Well, it's really a treat for our listeners, I'm sure, as this unfolds, the magic that we co-create together. So to help to get the fun started, would you mind just sharing kind of that one thing that you love to be or do that gives you the most joy in your life?
I like to make ordinary things extraordinary. I like to look at people and see the potential in them. And then I feel an obligation, a moral obligation, a spiritual obligation, if you wish, to make the person aware of his or her biggest strengths and to encourage them to follow the path that they feel is a good way of expressing those strengths. I think I've done this also a little bit with you, like, who is David and how can I get the full David, the full human being into expression? I also like to turn ordinary information into extraordinary experiences. So I'm a creator at heart. I like to create new things, like new businesses, new products, services, experiences, etc. And it gives me joy to see how it affects people, how it affects our clients, how it affects my kids. And I always say I like to do it in the domain of life that I find the most essential. I call it human flourishing. Others call it personal development, personal growth, what's in a name. But it is, becoming who we are meant to be. And I think all of us have, I don't like the word purpose so much, but we have an innate core that wants to find expression in the world. And I think when we do that, we experience the thing that we are already full of. I call that fulfillment. So I feel the thing that I'm already full of, and you have the feeling that there's so much more where that came from. And when people are struggling or they're stuck, they're experiencing negative emotions, I like to kind of pull back the curtain, zoom out a little bit, help them reframe the situation. I like to uncover with them what really the root cause is of their suffering, if you want. And so I like to create those foundational solutions that I know are going to help them long term.
Thank you. And I just was reminded, I forgot to put my circle again on my hand that came, I suspect, from you by way of Mathieu Graham, who is our first episode guest. And what I love about both of your views on how transformation occurs is it's really about we are whole, we are enough, and it's that piece of marble that we, our own artists, can, just by chipping away, we reveal more of who we really are. So before QLX, before Evermove, and even before Champ, what life experiences, if you don't mind, just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you become the Bert Eckert that we know and love?
Well, I guess my origin story starts when I was in my teenage years, when my mom left my father. She left our home. I have 3 brothers, so it was me, my 3 brothers, and my dad, and we were all alone. And I was 13 years old, and I couldn't really deal with the situation, and so I started to behave in ways that, at the time, I already knew that this is not normal, that someone behaved like this. Like, I was having an eating disorder, and I developed suicidal behavior, and I've always been very introspective. And so I started questioning, why am I doing this? Like, I wasn't doing this a year ago. I wasn't feeling this a year ago. So why is my body craving these foods that I'm eating uncontrollably? Or why am I having these dark thoughts? And so that was the first period that I remember very vividly, that I became very interested in the human operating system from a place of pain. And then, of course, I started looking for solutions. I explored all the standard ways of getting treatment, like going to a psychologist, etc. And many of those people do excellent work, but like I started asking the question, like, why is it that I have to do this work when I'm in a very difficult situation, when I'm already experiencing the problems? Why am I not learning about all these things before I get into trouble?
Yes.
So I always
Yes.
say I ask the very difficult questions that most people ask at the end of life. I ask them at the very beginning, like, why am I here? Who am I? Who do I want to become? What are my talents? What is my purpose? And so that kind of started my journey of looking for solutions, finding out what I'm good at, how I can contribute to this space, and that led to all the other businesses and initiatives that I started, and that's also how I met you.
So that thread that started as can we call you a teenager, and your hormones are raging, and you're trying to figure yourself out, and then to have this family dynamic, I'm sure it must have been a very challenging time. But what do you think helped you keep getting up in the morning and moving forward? Was there a light? And I'm teeing you up a little bit for your wonderful kind of view of the world about guarding the light.
There was one person, a very good friend, who guarded my light. Sorry. So I always encourage people who are going through a tough time to focus on the social aspect of getting better first, because that's, well, I wouldn't say it's the easiest one, but it's the most straightforward one. Is surround yourself with people who love you, who support you, who pull you back a little bit. Like, that's what you want from a coach or a therapist or whatever, is that, listen to my story, I can express my feelings, etc. And I know that you love and support me. So that was the person who really changed things for me. I always say, like, the less aware you are of how your human operating system works, the more the environment is going to matter, in a good way and in a bad way. It's also like, if you see how easy it is to manipulate people's behavior, it's always an environmental trigger or circumstance that is giving rise to this kind of behavior. That, like, you see it also in politics, how certain politicians, they leverage fear, etc. So the basic human emotions. And so the more aware you are of how you work and what the triggers that are coming in are doing to your system, the better or the more responsible you can be. So the more that you are in charge of your reactions, your emotions, your behavior, and so the more empowered you become. And so that's also why I do the work that I do, to make people a bit more aware of what exactly is going on, and how can I become a bit more masterful.
That's so inspiring. Now, as a new host, I'm still learning my role. I didn't set you up very well with my last question. For our listeners who don't know what you know and I know about guarding your light, can you just define what you mean by that?
Well, I think all of us are born with potential. We are born with the seed or the core of what we need to become. And it's, I think, society and the conditioning, the education system is very focused on something that we need to add from the outside, instead of protecting what's already on the inside. Like, I have small children. I think every day about, who is this child already? This child is already full. He's already perfect. Like, he didn't come out of the womb, and I didn't start saying, like, how can I make this child better? Like, how can I make him or her more complete? It's like, no, this is the most beautiful person moment that I've ever experienced. This is perfect for me. But then society starts to tell us, like, we need to be this or that, or you need to have so many followers on social media, and we start all this external comparison, and this dims our light. Like, this doesn't make us shine. This keeps people small. And I believe that when people learn to protect what's good in themselves, and they learn to protect what's good in one another, I think that's when your light is protected, and then you can magnify it and you can let it shine, and the world becomes a bit brighter for all of us.
Yeah, that I wish I had learned about what you just shared when I was a kid, because my parents, as loving as they were, they viewed my sister and I as kind of lumps of clay to mold and shape. And I remember in my teenage years just not feeling validated and enough. And like Mathieu shared last week, that wound or that gap in his soul, if I can call it that, caused him to become very much a doer and an achiever. And that was certainly my way of being. And it's maybe what our society conditions us to be. But then we wake up in our maybe mid 30s or 40s, you know, that whole midlife crisis thing, or in my case, late 50s. And we're exhausted and we don't know who we are. And it is absolutely frightening. Whereas if we had learned this earlier, which I know QLX, you and your team are really trying to figure out how to bring these important, simple but not easy, but highly, highly valuable mindset shifts and maybe a framework or two much earlier into maybe even parenting and certainly into the schools.
Yeah, I want to make it interactive. I want to make it fun. I want to make it something that you want to go to, especially as a child. Like, I'm not going to be happy about, hey, I have to go to a therapist. No, I can go to this place where I can get something like really fun and I can learn about myself and how I operate. That's part of my mission. Like, let's build the societal infrastructure to actually do this properly. And it doesn't exist. Like, I looked for it as a kid, and the only thing I could find was doctors, etc. And I mean, they do nice work. I don't have anything against them, but it's all after I already have the problem. I do think, like, to tap a little bit into what you just said, is like, we are becoming something, but we are becoming more of who we already are. We're not becoming something that we're not. And so we think that I have to be like this or this or this. And then like, people, I mean, it is a journey of becoming. Like Mathieu last week talked about the acorn and the oak tree. Like, okay, the potential of the oak tree is in the little acorn, and the acorn, it has to go through storms, etc., to become stronger, and so on and so on. But it's never going to turn into a tulip, or it's never going to turn into a sunflower or whatever. And that's where many people start to struggle. It's like, I want to be like David, but I'm Bert. So what is the thing that I'm uniquely qualified to do? What lights me up? And like, becoming yourself is getting rid of all the garbage and all the layers that you've accumulated throughout your life. And that's when the self that you had since you were a little infant, that's when it can shine through, and when it starts to develop, and not when it's just piled under tons and tons of conditioning and stuff, that, like, belief systems that you've received from your parents, your friends, or whatever. And yeah, so I think we try to remove more than we try to add. And that's one of those essential concepts that most people, they think, like, I have to add all this stuff or knowledge or whatever, and then all of a sudden I'm gonna see the light, and then I'm gonna know my way and find my purpose, etc. And it's not true.
No. Well, I think this might be a great opportunity now to pivot to the Experience Center and your human operating system. We have about 7 minutes or so before the commercial break. And then, of course, we'll have the rest of the show to really experience this mind, body, energy unity. So do you want to just take a moment and kind of orient us to your space and talk a little bit about the human operating system, please?
So first, about the Experience Center, this is a space that, like, this is a story of manifestation. Like, I always wanted to have something like this. And I started looking everywhere, like, who's doing this, etc., etc. I couldn't find the place. I went all over the world looking for it. And then all of a sudden I found a place here in Belgium, 25 minutes from where I live, that was doing it. And then, long story short, you know this, they asked me if I wanted to, quote unquote, have the center at the end of 2024. And it's like, my heart said, yes, I have to do this. Like, so it all came together in a way that, I didn't push it. I I didn't manipulate anyone for it, but I just showed up and I did the work that I felt in my heart I needed to do. And so this is how this manifested. We have like 10 different areas and we take people through a journey of transformation. I have a process and it's called heart, head, hands. So we try to first engage people emotionally, so that they understand like, why is this important? What is the outcome if I learn or experience these concepts? Then we try to engage them intellectually, like we explain what we do and what they experienced. And then we always end with the hands. It's like, okay, how do I apply this when I go home, in my family, in my company, whatever. And so the heart, head, hands, it's a trinity that is very well established scientifically. If you want to change someone's behavior, you need to have all three sides of that triangle. So you need to engage them emotionally, you need to engage them intellectually, like they need to know what it means, like they need to understand it, and they need to know how to apply this in real life. Otherwise there's not going to be any transformation, of course, if they don't do anything with it.
And by the way, if I could just quickly add a thought, those of you listeners that are leaders, and leadership is everyone's business. You can lead from any chair. Leadership is influence, not necessarily position power. That triangle, the heart, head, and hand, when those three come together, when you're leading and facilitating meetings or communicating in a presentation, it transfers, doesn't it, Bert?
It does, and it's like the sequence is really important. It's not head, hands, heart, or head, heart, hands. It's heart, head, hands. Like people need to first be engaged with you on an emotional level before you start to talk to their hands. It's also with kids, it's the same way. Also, when someone has a problem and they're in an emotional state, don't start talking to their head too soon. Like let them cool down a bit. Make sure that they're actually in the state to be able to receive the message or the advice or whatever that you want to give them. Because I mean, this is just physiology. If your emotional brain and the body, because those two always go together, if they're in a very active state, like they're struggling, whatever, they're negative, like the analytical centers of the brain, they shut down. So and like this is what we try to do. Like my kids, one of my sons, you notice he used to have like huge temper tantrums. And I learned like I need to find a way to calm him down emotionally. I don't need to start saying like, what are you doing? Stop doing this. Go in your room, or why are you yelling again? Or this doesn't make any sense. He's just not receptive to that message at the moment. And that's like, this is one of those examples of first calm him down, make sure you have emotional connection. Science also says this, stay in the room, make sure he feels safe, like he feels safe. He doesn't think he's safe, he feels safe. And then you can start to have a conversation once he's cooled down. And then the hands, you can start thinking about, okay, dear son, what are we going to do next time that this happens? Can we catch your emotional response a bit earlier so that you don't go into a full temper tantrum, and so on. And so that's just one small application of how powerful this simple model is.
So it works with kids, and I swear to God, it works with my wife, Margaret. She and I had a little bit of a disconnect, a gear slippage as we're renovating our home. Anybody who's done that knows that it can be quite stressful. And it worked brilliantly, right? Just acknowledge and validate the emotions. And so
even in sales, you first want to engage someone emotionally before you start talking about the specifics of the offer, et cetera, and then at the end, the hands, you give the call to action. But you always talk about the benefits first, or your authentic self. You do like what we call consultative selling, like you try to establish a heartfelt connection with the person. Because if you have the heart connection, like you have the emotional buy-in from the other person, like, hey, this is a nice person, I sense that I can trust this person, then all the rest is so much easier. If you don't have the first, then the last two ones, like, then I'm not saying they're never gonna work, but the chance is diminished huge.
That is so valuable. Listeners, if you can just take this one key insight, it is one of those principles that can be.
This is $1 million insight if you apply it. That's what I always say. this is $1 million insight if you apply it. And this is like one of my central teachings is mastery is a repetitive application of the essentials. And this is one of those essentials. And people think, oh, I need to have more information, more complex models, etc., etc. No, a master masters the essentials and he repeats them over and over and over again. And he doesn't practice a new move every day. So that's basically it.
So Bert, let's just pause for a second. And this is going to be our opportunity to go out to a commercial break.
You're listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave, your personal regenerator on K4HD Radio. We'll be right back. Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you ready to regenerate and live the life of your dreams? Start the transformation now. Call Captain Dave at 253-237-2558. Stop overthinking. Again, call 253-237-2558 or go to regenerativeworldgroup.com to book a free, no-obligation clarity call. Let's get back to Regenerate right here on K4HD Radio for more life-changing transformations. Here's your host, Captain Dave, your personal regenerator.
Welcome back. If you're just now joining, we've been having a fabulous chat with Sensei and dear friend Bert Eckert, founder and CEO of Quality of Life Experience, QLX.com, where he and his team design transformational experiences, helping people flourish. We've been talking about our theme, your human operating system. And Bert, you were saying, and it is so wise, this gap between knowing something and actually applying it or doing it. And in my case, with neurodiversity and ADHD, doing it consistently. Most people, we can drive like a Boeing 747 or Airbus A380 between those two circles. Oh my gosh. So yeah, when we can bring those together, that's the key to that $1 million value that you were talking about before the break. So do you want to shift now to this kind of mind-body energy unity and use the Experience Center as part of how you want to share this topic?
I'd love to. So maybe I just give a little bit of an overview or an idea, like what are we going to talk about. So one of the things that I believe is really important for people to understand is, how do I actually create my emotions? And where do my thoughts come from? How do I experience, or why do I experience my life/reality the way that I experience them? And like one of the central teachings that we do in the Experience Center, like we do it through letting people go through exercises or measurements, etc., where we actually show these concepts. We don't just explain them, like we let them experience it. Because if you experience it, you will also understand it. It's like, that's what you said, like if you have an embodied experience, that's when it goes from just the rational mind to the more emotional, embodied understanding. And so that's really important for people to have. Like one of the things that I show people, and I will show it now for people who can see this video, is like we show that even our perception of reality is not, I don't know if you can see this, like I'm shining a light on my hand, and this light is showing like all the veins in my arm. So it's shining through my skin and it's showing all the veins in my arm. So this is one of the things that we always show people, like what we think is real, that's just our human perception of reality. And so our brain is going to interpret reality in a very human way. But in the same way, like Captain David Gallimore is going to interpret the same situation in a different way than the way Bert is going to interpret it. And so how this works is really important to understand, because it can learn so much about your struggles, the solutions to your problems, like how you've been conditioned as a child, etc., etc. And I'll just very quickly explain how this works using our Experience Center. So I'm standing here in front of a digital body. And so, like, let's call him Dave. This is Captain Dave Gallimore. And I can show
thanks for shedding a couple pounds in the middle, my friend. I really appreciate you. Little airbrushing. Thank you.
You're welcome. So when I when I peel off Captain Dave's skin, we can see that the human body is uniquely designed, for example, for movement. Like you see all the muscles on the human body, and you see that if, for example, if the body doesn't move enough, the body does not do what it is designed to do, and the body is going to send signals to the brain like, this person is not moving enough. You need to become more physically active because I need this to function properly. If I go a little bit further down the anatomical spectrum, one of the things you can see here, for example, is how much space all the bowels and the gut takes in the human body. Some people might have heard about, for example, the gut microbiome. So if you just look at the human body and you see how much space is reserved for these intestines here, it's very easy to conclude that if you're not eating well, or you have a problem in your intestines, that many signals are going to go to your brain, and your brain is going to create emotions that tell your body like something is not right. You need to change your behavior. So now I'm going to go all the way down, and so I'm just going to show the nervous system. So this is what we see here. So you see the brain and the nerves, and so this is like a very good image of how wonderful the human body is. So now we see the full human body with the nervous system. You have the brain, and you have the spinal cord. So that's the central nervous system, and then you have all the nerves branching out from that. And so what actually happens in any moment, like when you're listening to this radio show now, or you're watching a YouTube video or whatever, a signal is coming into your brain through the five senses. You have five senses, like you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can taste, you can touch. But the moment that this signal comes into the brain, it is pure energy. Like it doesn't make any sense yet. Mathieu last week also explained this. Like the information that comes in is nonsensical. It doesn't make any sense. And so the primary function of the brain is to make sense of the information that's coming in through the brain. Now, the next question is like, how does the brain know how to make sense of this? Well, it's learned through the behavior of your parents or whatever, like genetic conditioning. It's learned what it needs to do with all the information that's coming in. And so the evaluation that the brain makes, so like good, bad, neutral, whatever, it's going to render a version of reality based on that evaluation. And it's going to send signals to your body about the evaluation that it made. Like if it's negative, it's going to, for example, produce fear or tension or whatever. If it's positive, it might create a sense of joy, like it's going to produce hormones in the body and so on, that are going to make you feel good. But at the same time, like there's also signals coming back to the brain, like from the body. So the brain can process information coming from the environment, but most of the information is actually coming from the human body itself. And that's why when you do stuff with your body, like you breathe more slowly, or you put on a more confident posture or whatever, the brain is getting signals from the body that, hey, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm confident, whatever. And it's also going to start to feel this way. So it goes from the brain to the body, but also from the body to the brain. And then the last input that the brain receives is from the brain itself. So we have input from the environment, that's from the outside. You have input from the body itself. So there's millions of signals every single millisecond coming to the brain, and the brain needs to keep track of all of those. And then you have signals coming from the human mind itself, so from the rational part of the mind, because any sensory impression that you can have from the environment, you can also create it virtually in your mind. Like you can think thoughts. Thinking is talking to yourself. You can imagine images, like you can close your eyes and you can imagine a pink elephant, for example. Your brain is going to register this, and it's going to output what you're thinking, what you're saying to yourself as a signal to your body. So the brain is not just, or the mind is not just the brain. The mind is all the infrastructure in the body that you have to keep your body safe, to react to the environment, because that's the primary function of the brain, is to keep the body safe and sound and to fight, flight, whatever, based on what it makes of any situation. But so it's not objective. It's very subjective. Like, for example, when I said as a child, my mom went away from my home, and in the years after that event, every time someone said to me something that was negative, I had an emotional reaction that was much stronger than a normal child would have had, because my subconscious, like the part of my mind that I'm not consciously aware of, it interpreted this as this is another form of rejection. People don't love you, etc., etc. And that's why I create emotions that other people might not create, because they have been conditioned differently. And so one of the key lessons that I teach people is when you experience an emotion, your subconscious, so the part of your brain that works automatically day and night, has already done the evaluation. And so many people think that the emotion is what's going to this is going to affect the subconscious mind, etc., etc. But you don't create your emotions consciously. Like, I can tell you to think of a pineapple, for example, or an elephant or a train, and you can do that in the moment very quickly. But I cannot ask you to become angry, become happy, become joyful. Like, what you would do is you would imagine a situation, and that situation you would do a deep dive into that situation, and you would try to create that situation in your body, because you cannot do it consciously. So the emotions are made by the subconscious in relation to the body, and you need the body to experience the emotion. This is like, for example, people talk about, are AI systems going to become conscious? Or are they going to feel emotions? What are they going to feel the emotion in? They don't have a physical body where they can experience the emotion into. So the emotion is literally the energy that comes in through the brain. The brain evaluates that, and the outcome of this evaluation, that is what we call an emotion, an energy in motion through the body, and the feeling is what you describe the emotion to be. So David talked about people have difficulty labeling their emotions. This in part depends on how much vocabulary you have. Like, if you have a lot of vocabulary related to emotions like angry, joyful, blah, 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 we see from experience, or from scientific studies better, that people who have a richer vocabulary, they have a little bit more emotional control, because they can distinguish between, for example, angry and agitated, whatever. And so people like children, they don't have that vocabulary, and they know I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, for example. And so, like, language is just what we use to describe the emotion, and that's what we label as a feeling, but it's not really the same thing going on in the human body. So this is just one of the things that we teach, but it's such an easy and elemental process, and if you understand it, then you can start to work with it, and you can become a lot more emotionally masterful.
Oh, this is so profound. So, Bert, to bring it down to maybe a practical problem or use case, is there a favorite kind of scenario that you'd like to talk with me about? I'm happy to be your subject. And this idea of where does the body sense that feeling, and what does that mean in terms of the brain, and vice versa, movement of the body, and how does that influence emotion? You want to bring this down to a specific example or two that might come to mind?
Well, let's use a very simple situation. Like, you have to speak in front of an audience, for example, and you feel discomfort. Like, most people know, like, I feel a little bit tense in my stomach, etc., etc. So when you have the feeling, this is your subconscious telling you, like, hey, I have not been conditioned in a way that this feels safe for me. And this is what we say, I'm evaluating the prospect of going into the room and talking to these people. I might even know them, but I'm evaluating this as still something that is threatening, or something might happen, like it doesn't go right, and then it's going to affect my self-worth, or I'm not going to get the promotion or whatever. But so as soon as you notice the change in your physiology, this is a sign that your brain still has trouble, like, handling the situation. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, but you can do things with your body to give your brain the message, like this is safer than you think it is. For example, you can do breathing exercises. Breathing is very powerful, like slow breathing, like you breathe in, like for example, 4 seconds, and you breathe out 6 to 8 seconds. If you breathe out longer than you breathe in, this is a signal to your brain, like this is safer than I think it is. Or you stand in a positive, powerful pose. Like this is the muscles are going to signal to your brain, like I'm more confident than you think that I am. Or you just put a smile on your face. Like sometimes people say, put a pencil between your teeth. Why does this work? Because the brain knows that when I smile, I'm in a happy place. Like this is a good situation. And so if you do this like for 30 seconds or a minute, you're giving your brain through your muscles the signal that this is not as threatening as you're evaluating this to be. Or you just move, like I just showed you, like the body is full of muscles. If like animals, when they're stressed, they move around because they give their brain the signal that I'm managing all this stress because I know how to use my body. And so what you don't want to do is go sit on a chair and like have this kind of position where you like lumped over and you're not smiling, whatever. You're gonna tell your brain, like, you're right, I'm not confident. I like I should be stressed because I'm acting like someone who's stressed and not confident. And so you're tricking or you're giving your brain the signal that, fine, I know that you're evaluating this as threatening, but it's not because you think that this is the way, like this is so, that I agree and I can influence you myself. Like I actually talk to my brain. I sometimes say, dear brain, I know you're trying to make me safe. Like you're trying to keep me safe. I know you're doing this because that's what you've been designed to do. Like you want to keep me safe from harm. That's your primary function, to keep Bert safe from harm. But if I listen to you, I'm never going to do anything that's uncomfortable. I'm never going to go on US radio and talk to this guy, David Gallimore. And it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but I do it precisely because it's uncomfortable, because I know that this is a way of retraining you, my dear brain, to become more comfortable with the situation. And like when I've done this 20 times, I will not be as stressed anymore because my brain has learned there's nothing to fear here. Like this is okay. And so this is, yeah, it's very simple, but the same process applies to pretty much every situation that you find yourself in.
You know, as I hear you describing some of these body strategies, I'm reminded of Formula One drivers, and you know the Formula One series is starting up again, and they have these rituals, these physical rituals that they do before they get into the car, and even when they're in the car, they have their physical rituals that help them kind of get back into their body and stay present and find the flow state and all that. And I remember when I was doing piano performances, I always got nervous, almost to the point of throwing up. And I remember that power pose, kind of that Superwoman, Superman, hands on the hip, and giving myself, to your point, the very, you know, part of what is this human operating system, the heart, and then the head, and then the hands. And I didn't know that was a thing, but I did apply those three key sequences in the proper sequence. And then I would go out on stage and just remember one thing, just love up the music and love up the audience. And the practice is the practice, the notes are the notes, but just stay focused on why you love this particular piece of music. And
Exactly.
you want to share that, you know, with the audience. And it's amazing how the body can help settle the mind and the emotions.
And like when you're doing the piano play, like you're performing in front of the audience, what you don't want the mind to do is start to think about everything that could go wrong. Like you want to stay in that moment, because when the mind goes into the concept, like this is, I'm gonna fail, this is gonna go wrong, I'm not good enough, etc., your mind is gonna signal that to the body, and the chance of you like getting actual like getting the bad performance are way higher. So you want to be focused on the moment and do the things that you need to do then, and not start to think about everything that could go wrong, etc., etc. But I want to stress that it's not like the body is very powerful because it sends a lot of messages to the brain, but like you can also do a lot of stuff with the environment and also with the thoughts, etc., that you generate yourself in your own mind. This is why affirmations or listening to empowering music, etc., like this is why this is also effective, because all those signals are picked up by the brain and they're going to be simulated or evaluated in a certain way. And then like this is on the input side, and then of course you can reprogram your subconscious to evaluate everything that comes in differently. And if you start doing that, like you can tackle your belief systems, you can change the way that you've conditioned as a child, and there's different techniques for that. But that's when where the magic really happens, because then you're not just manipulating the input through the body, the environment, or the mind, but you're actually changing the throughput of the system. Like you're changing the engine that is evaluating everything that comes in. And when that happens, your life starts to happen starts to change long term.
Yeah. Bert, we need to have you come back and do more about the experience in the Experience Center, but sadly time is flowing swiftly. Can you just help the audience know how they can learn more about you, how to contact you?
So the best way is to go to qlx.now. I've also made a page at qlx.now/regenerate, where people can contact me directly. I'm also happy to point them to some of the programs that we have about personal development, about emotional mastery, about understanding yourself. Or if they want to get in touch with me directly, I will also reach out. Or on LinkedIn, if they just look for my name and send me a message there, that's the easiest way to contact me.
Excellent. Excellent. What I love about your approach to high performance and helping your executive coaching clients, I know that you, as a cyclist, very accomplished cyclist, you often also work with athletes. Is there something that you would like our audience to know? What's that one takeaway that you haven't yet had a chance to share? You just got a couple minutes to kind of wrap up this part, and then of course if you're willing and you've had fun, we'd love to have you come back. But what's that takeaway that you'd really love our listeners to embrace?
Don't be tactical. I'm going to repeat, don't be tactical when it comes to your personal development. What I mean by that is, don't look for a new solution every day before you know how this fits into the larger picture. Like, who am I? What am I? Who am I becoming? Etc. Etc. Do that foundational work first before you start to do everything with meditation, hypnosis, blah 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 blah. That's all good and well, but it needs to be embodied in a larger strategy. Like when you this is one of the things that I teach in my Essentials program. When you try to solve a puzzle, try to solve it without the picture of the complete image. It is almost impossible. You don't know how you have to put the pieces together. And so I say you have to know what the big picture is when it comes to your personal development, and then you can start to see, okay, what are the big pieces, what are the smaller ones? But most people are opportunity seekers when it comes to their personal development, and that's why they get into trouble and stay into trouble long term. And then they say it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you don't have the full picture, and you're an opportunity seeker, and you think that mastery comes from adding a new tactic every day, and it only comes from repetition of the essentials.
Yeah, and that is really that key, isn't it, to closing that gap between knowing and applying or doing.
Exactly. Imagine your architect trying to build your house without a plan. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. So thank you, Bert. Bless you. I can't wait to have you back. And I invite you listeners to check out qlx.now. So our next port of call, helping us navigate the messy middle of transformations, is Catherine Baker. She's my masterclass and workshop collaborator, a dear friend who will be joining us from her Texas ranch next Monday. Giddy up. And the theme that we'll be highlighting is breaking through your Gales. And Gales stands for gremlins and assumptions. And I won't give away the rest of it. So come join us on Monday. So I want to wrap up the show by saying thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you had fun today. I know I did. I think Bert did as well. I hope you leave inspired and empowered. And so on behalf of our entire Talk4 media team, and especially our guest, Bert Eckert, stay healthy, stay safe. We need you. Consider applying just one idea to close that gap between knowing and doing. And if you like this show, please subscribe, like, and if you feel really compelled, comment. See you next week. We're better together.
Thank you for listening to Regenerate with Captain Dave on K4HD Radio. We invite you to give yourself grace and embrace the messy middle. See you every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Until then, you got this.